Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Lost Legion. I'm your host, JR, and my co-host, Daniel. And we got a special guest, someone who thinks Ahsoka is too good and the Rebels are OP, Nick. How's it going, Nick?
Good, glad to be here. It's finally bring some actual good takes on Star Wars and stop all this. I get tired of listening to CIS chat hour. So
Hey, we brought Jose with the Gar love.
Hey, we're trying to,
Both of it.
propaganda CIS to back into power. All right, guys. So not a whole lot of new information coming out for Legion and Shatterpoint. Shatterpoint is coming out here pretty soon. So lots of reveals and lots of gameplay. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch, but they released a video of them playing Shatterpoint. Did you guys get a chance to watch that?
No, I didn't see that.
What about you, Nick? No? Yeah, so
No.
I watched it. It looked like the same way that I played. But yeah, still excited. That's coming out here in June. No Legion news, makes sense because they just announced a bunch of it. So
When is Ahsoka supposed to drop? Because that's pretty soon, isn't it?
I believe May 21st.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's further than I was thinking. I was thinking early May for some reason.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure someone said May 21st.
No, you're probably right.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and Cody just came out last Friday, so I know people got their hands on him, and I'm excited to go.
Yeah, that would make sense then.
But yep.
Like a month between releases.
Mm-hmm. Which, if they keep this up, like I'm cool with it, but at the same time, I'm just like, that's kind of a slow release schedule. But from what I understand with the MCP, that's what they kind of do, release something every month.
I think that's pretty good. I mean, I'm behind on playing tons of stuff that I have or I haven't even bought, like Cody or anything. So I wouldn't want it any faster.
I just want more stuff on my faction is what I'm trying to say. Like, give me more CIS stuff. Give me more Shadow Collective stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just hard because it's been a while since like the Galactic Clone Wars has gotten much. So it's been a lot for Empire.
Well, when they start releasing Shatterpoint too, then they're going to have something coming out all the time, right? Whether it's MCP, Shatterpoint, or Legion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know this wave that's coming up for Shatterpoint is Dooku and Obi-Wan, and I'm sure Grievous and Lumar are not far behind.
Yeah. It's too bad because I'm more interested in Grievous and Luminara. I was hoping I could pre-order those and get them on launch.
Yeah.
I found out today I cannot, so that's sad.
Yeah, Grievous looks really like I just like his model. He looks like the Grievous I grew up on, not that winky one in Clone Wars. But Nick, did you get Commander Cody?
No. I have played my Gar army once or twice, so I'm really just probably focusing just on Rebels and then Empire right now.
Makes sense. So that's pretty much it. Announcement this Sunday at the Me and Ed's over by the Clovis community for our local players. We're going to be finishing out the Bounty Hunter tournament. So come check us out. It's going to be starting at 11 a.m. Come watch me win another tournament. So.
Not with that list. You're gonna lose this time.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be an uphill battle for sure. So
yeah, I've coached Johnny on how to kill Obi-Wan. He's all locked in.
It was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I was just like, let's see if we can take Gar. I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of the Bounty Hunter tournament. So stay tuned for another tournament that's coming up. But that's all we got for any local stuff. But I kind of wanted to pick you guys' brain, especially you, Nick. So I got a chance to play Shatterpoint. Now, I did not get Shatterpoint early. I actually played it on TTS. The mods were really quick once all the information dropped, and they already made a mod out of it. It looks to me they're using the MCP mod for Shatterpoint, which makes sense because it seems to me there's two people in this camp. There's the camp that Legion players comparing it to Legion, and there's the MCP camp that's comparing it to MCP. So I'm definitely in the Legion camp. I've only played like 1 or 2 games of MCP. I don't have too much information on that. But I got to play it, and I did have a good experience, and I didn't at the same time. Because I feel like it's all new and overwhelming. So learning all these rules can be daunting and exhausting. And I definitely felt that. I definitely felt I played some things wrong. I had a great teacher who taught me. And then the second time I taught someone else, and I'm pretty sure I taught him wrong rules because I don't know all the rules. So we were probably frustrated about that. But what I want to say about it is, let's say what I like about it. I like that everybody moves independently of each other. I like that the randomness of you draw like, oh man, I don't want to get that guy. And there are kind of like ways to manipulate it in a way, but not a tremendous amount. I like the struggle where you're constantly bouncing it back and forth. That was a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, it's another Star Wars game. Can't go wrong with that. And the miniatures, they already look amazing. The things that I didn't like was that. Okay, Nick, you gotta help me out here because I think MCP is the same way. The dice system is, to me, is convoluted, and I'm hoping that gets better with reps as the more you play, or that's just how it's gonna be. Because like I'm definitely coming from the Legion standpoint where I roll dice, I have how many hits, can you survive that with your defense rolls? Where this one you gotta stop, roll, convert, see what happens, and then go down the skill tree. What do you think? Because I don't know if it's like MCP or what.
It's similar, but MCP even has more symbols. They have wilds, they have crits, they have hits, they have blanks. And in MCP, your dice are the same, both attacking and defending. So you don't roll different dice. So it's one set of dice on both sides. But yes, it's kind of similar in that, yeah, you roll an MCP, and if you get a hit and a wild, maybe that does something on your attack. Something extra, right? So there's a lot of things like that, different combinations of symbols on the MCP attack profiles that maybe might trigger something else. So I can see that's kind of similar in this, where if you roll your expertise, you might trigger some other thing. So that is kind of similar. I would say, without playing Shatterpoint, but just reading the rule book, it definitely feels like MCP has more of that than Shatterpoint. I would say Shatterpoint's maybe a little more straightforward in that. But having the two different sets of dice, that's completely different. When you say the rules were tough, are you talking about the actual gameplay rules, or your special abilities on the cards on your heroes?
So those special abilities I think were pretty straightforward. It was pretty like self-explanatory when you activate them. The only thing that I'm trying to figure out, and one person taught me another way, but I read in the rulebooks another way, is you use an ability that takes up an action. And he told me it doesn't take an action. And then when I read it, it's like, oh, it only takes an action if it says it takes an action.
Right.
That sounds correct. But it only takes action if it says take an action.
So like force speed on Maul just says like you spend a force power to make a move. So like
so it's like a free action.
Okay, yeah. So that's where I'm kind of getting confused about. Because like I have to visualize it to do it. Reading it kind of just like what? So yeah, but they're pretty straightforward in my opinion.
Yeah, when I read the rule book, I felt like, oh, I know this. I already know the game. now as playing MCP, that probably helps a lot, right? Yeah. Because it's very similar. I really do think it's kind of funny. It almost is a perfect blend of both.
Yeah.
They've taken a little bit of MCP, they've taken a little bit of Legion, like the random order control. MCP, you pick your guy. Having you be engaged and not be like shoot out, like that doesn't exist in MCP. You could have somebody smashing right in the face and you could shoot anyone you want. There's no engaged in MCP, but they did bring that into Shatterpoint, which I feel like is something from Legion. So it's kind of a mixture, I feel like, of both games, but the objective play definitely feels a lot like MCP.
So you could shoot, you can't shoot out, but you can shoot in.
You correct. That's Shatterpoint, you can't shoot out, but you can shoot in.
Yeah.
I feel like that's purposeful, so that when your Jedi gets into the B1s, that you've pretty much nullified them.
Yeah, and the B1s do suck in melee. I found that out pretty fast.
That is not surprising.
No, I want an OP B1 thing. But yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I do agree the abilities were straightforward. Understanding what they can do and what they can't do. I think it was just my overloading my brain. Like, okay, figure out what triggers at what time and everything. Oh yeah, I missed that trigger. I didn't know he could do that. Blah blah blah.
That's the tough part, because especially when we get a lot of characters, you're gonna not remember things. That's what happens to MCP all the time. You don't remember things. Everyone has 12 different abilities. You forget your reactives. You forget this. You play them wrong. It happens all the time in MCP because there's just so much on every character. And when when you get to MCP where there's over 100, characters, there's a lot to remember. It's not like Legion where, oh, charge on everyone's the same thing. And I literally, you could know everyone's card without even really playing that army. It's not like that. You're gonna sit down and play someone. When we get lost Shatterpoint models, you're gonna not know anything what their army does unless like you play those models.
And that's what scares me. Is like I think we have a good I think we have a good local group, but like you said in the last time we met up, it's so many unintentional cheating. Like it's so hard to keep track of everything at once. I will say that I think my distaste for Shatterpoint is coming from a bias of Legion, and I have to take my mindset away from that because I'm learning that in Shatterpoint you don't want to kill things. That shouldn't be your goal. That's not what's happening here. And attacking is more of a strategic plan than it is to actually kill them. So in my second game, I really leaned more towards that, where my first game I was trying to kill everything. And in my second game, I was just like, oh, okay, I actually want to wound this person so it doesn't count for the point, so that I can get the point, and then I can potentially use an ability for free and move and jump around on the board. So that I really liked. I really liked that scoring is consistently happening. After the first turn, I move on to a point. I count my unit leaders that is range 2. I get that, and then I move the struggle tracker towards my way. Then my opponent goes. He moves into take over a point. He counts. So if I have 3 taken over, I move it 3. And if he doesn't take any over on his turn, I go again and I just get another 3. That was fun. And I like the 2 out of the 3 system of the cards, where if you're just shutting down your opponent, you get 2 cards and the game just ends there, which is really nice. So I don't really see though how you can just shut someone down in this game, because even though their demo they showed one of the supporting characters just get wounded, practically almost wounded on the first turn, they still have a role to play, and they still get to chance to change things on the board, which I really like. It's not like you just got wiped off the board in Legion, But my thing about the dice was that I roll dice, I check to see what everything, the expertise, I got to go to my character, see what the expertise is, and then be like, then I do this, this, and this. And but I'm sure that'll get better as the more I play it. Still hyped for it.
Some of that might be harder in TTS as well, because you don't have the physical cards that you can reference. I know anytime I have to read cards when I'm playing Legion in TTS is a nightmare. So it might be some of that where you're just not familiar with it yet, so it's hard to go and reference, because you have to reference your expertise, and then afterwards you again have to reference the little chart to see what damage you do. Whereas if you knew those, or even if you had them physically in front of you, I think you'd be a lot faster.
I agree with you. I found myself in TTS going, just all over the place.
Yep.
But those are my only 2 things about it. Was the dice seemed a little bit convoluted. Hopefully that gets better with more reps. But overall, the struggle counter was amazing. I gotta say, Ahsoka and Anakin are amazing. They're so good. I don't even want to attack those guys every time I see them. I'm just gonna ignore you. So yeah. But
so are you pre-ordering this one, Nick?
Yes, I pre-ordered the core set. Yeah, I did the core set only, and I did extra of all the terrain.
Oh wow.
So yeah, because the terrain is going to be useful in all the games, right?
Yeah.
Legion, even MCP and Shatterpoint. So that's why I ordered extra of that. I only did the core because, to be honest, none of these characters are kind of what I want to play. I'm really looking forward more to the Galactic Civil War when those come out.
Okay.
So I'll play just within the box. I'll be fine with that to learn and play, and then we'll go from there.
So you're just gonna wait until the Civil War stuff come out?
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, maybe something might come out like, oh, I'd really like to play that, but I'm happy that you can mix a little bit. I originally thought that you couldn't mix at all, like you couldn't bring in a different era, but how I understand it, you can bring a different era as long as it's not the same squad.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
So you could bring, Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker in their separate, lanes there. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
That seems like that's gonna be cool.
Yeah. So you could do a little Obi-Wan with or Old Man Ben. Hopefully they come up with Old Man Ben with Luke Skywalker, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, I found the primary secondaries, the primaries really strong, all of them. And then the secondaries, you know, they're good, but not as good as the primaries. And then your supporting characters, I found that they're very easy to wound, which should be the case, right? But at the same time, they move in twos. So if you move both onto a point, you immediately get that point. So I found strategic elements in that as well.
Or you could separate them to 2 different points.
Yes, you can. Yes. But they share health. So once you win the other one comes off. So it's just like, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
My first game, like I managed to kill somebody on the 3rd turn or the 3rd card, and it didn't matter at that point. Like sure they were gonna die, but the game was already over at that point. So it's just like it was nice knowing like, oh, they hanged on that whole time. So but yeah, that was my Shatterpoint experience. Still hyped for the game, still had a lot of fun with it. How about you guys? You guys play any Legion games over the weekend or over the week?
I just played the one game that I played with you, JR, so I'm sure we can talk about that one in a minute. What about you, Nick?
I only played one game and it was with JR.
We should make just JR do all the battle reports. Like, tell us what you thought of our games, JR.
We don't want his biased opinion.
I can't help it. You guys are looking for games. I'm up for a game.
I was gonna play with Nick, and then Nick abandoned me.
That's true. He's doing that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And I've been busy.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
I go first because I think my hour was pretty quick. So, you know, I decided that the last list I brought was, I brought all the bad units, and I was like, well, how can I improve that? Well, I'll bring even more bad units. So I brought Din with Grogu. There's a Rebel list. Brought Rebel Boba. Brought Jyn Erso because you can't leave home without Jyn Erso. And then I brought a bunch of Mandalorian resistance.
Oh man.
So yeah. So it was a terrible list. It was only 9 acts. Mandalorians are just so bad. They're so terrible.
I would say the Mando resistance, like the Mando like unit, but the other Mando.
The Mando resistance, also the Mandos in the Shadow Collective. Anybody who's not Clan Ren and is Mandalorian is pretty so-so.
Yeah. It just hurts so much to have to get him into range 2 to do anything. And then and even though I saved pretty well, and my saves were actually pretty good, they just can't last. They'll eventually just get to lose too many models to even make a difference.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a fun game otherwise. I think the turning point was I got his Ventress down to 1 wound. Was it turn 2 or turn 3?
I think turn 3.
It was pretty. Turn 3 got her down to 1 wound. But then every shot I put into her after that, I couldn't kill her.
Yep.
She just hung on by a sliver of health the whole time.
Did you play against his were you running the same list against me? The
no,
Ventress one?
So the one I ran against Nick was actually the Cad Bane one. And
okay.
Nick, were you purposely not attacking Cad Bane on purpose?
Maybe not purposely, but he's not a good target to shoot at, especially if you have heavy cover and all the dodges.
Yeah.
There's other things there are better things to shoot than him because you're not gonna be able to push enough through.
Yeah, because
especially with my small dice pools.
I was telling Daniel, I was just like, that game I played against you, you didn't shoot at him once, and like I didn't get any suppression to accumulate to distribute. And then every time I shot with Cad Bane, it just wasn't enough. And this is my list with the 3 stabs, 3 B1s with the rocket, and then Asajj, T-Series, and Cad Bane. And like in that game, I was just like, he doesn't do enough for me. Like I love the character, I think it's cool, but it's just not enough that I needed to. So that's when I changed to the list that I played against Daniel. I think it was a good game, but yeah, it was very much like, oh, all your Mandos are on this side, I'm just gonna hammer them and hopefully I get something through, and that's essentially what happened.
And as soon as Mandos take like 1 or 2 damage, they're kind of out of the game. I mean, you can almost ignore them because like 2 Mandos throwing 4 dice, it's like, yeah, it's a big deal, but like not for their points. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, like I remember doing 2 damage on Boba off of a stab shot, and I was just like, oh, let me focus Boba. And then, yeah, pretty much Makashi Mastery, and then Assad just refused to die. And then I think I got Mando at that point. I think that was when it was game over. Because then, yeah, it was breakthrough, and all his guys that I ignored on the right side, is pretty much was coming in for the flank, and they were getting position, and I needed to kill Mando because I still hadn't finished killing off all his Mando stuff. He was able to get one onto the trees, and then he killed. Who'd you kill, Nick? You killed. No, you didn't kill anybody. But if you
I
killed,
didn't.
yeah, if you killed something, because we were both in 9x, if you killed something, I had already committed everything towards the breakthrough that I had to double back just to get to make sure I was surviving or win the game. And then when I killed Mando, I think that's when it was just like, okay, yeah, that secures my goal, and everyone's already over there.
Yeah, the turn 3 when Ventress didn't come off the board, that was, I mean, that wasn't game over, but that was kind of like, oh, that was when it turned, because if she did come off the board at that point, Mando was in your B1s with his comms jammer.
Yep.
If there wasn't going to be much that was going to be able to probably kill him at that point, and he was going to be able to, probably kill off at least a couple units. Because I hadn't even used the flamethrower. But yeah, and maybe Bobo could have survived no turn 2 as well if Ventress wasn't there.
Yeah, which she is like. The more I play her, the more I realize how strong she is because of Makashi Mastery. It's just so good. It's take a wound just right off the bat. So
yeah, it's nice.
How was your game, Daniel? How did that handsome man do you played against?
So I got to play the version where you dropped Cad Bane and you put in Maul. You want to say what your list is?
Yeah,
and
so
I'll go from there.
So the list I played against Nick was only 9x, but since I took Maul, I played a T series, 6 B1s, 4 with the E5S, 2 with the rockets, and it also had the probe droids, and have Maul and then Asajj, which putting me at 10x, which makes me lean more towards this one, because I realized in my game against Nick, I needed my second operative to do more than just shoot 4 dice, and that was the case in this game. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you were running that list. I was running Shadow Collective. I went with I have Maul. He's got his dark saber and then like pretty standard upgrades. I think he had choke and push and into the fray. And then I had the bus with the medic, and then I had 2 squads of Black Suns completely kitted up. I had a squad of the Mandos, and they had Rook cast, so they had the extra health, which I feel like that's the only one that's even worth taking, because without 5 health, like, but I still think they're not great. But we'll get to that.
I still want to play them. Like, I'm waiting for Jose to finish mine, even though
I keep trying to play them, and every time they just part of it is that I think I end up playing you every time, and so there's choke on the table and pierce, and that's kind of rough for them. But I've never gotten my points worth out of them. But going from there, so we had that squad, then there was 2 squads of pikes with just the heavy gun. They didn't have anything else, and then 1 capo. So that put me at 8 activations, which is lower than I want to be, but I was just kind of messing around. I wanted to fit the Mandos and Maul, and so then I think that gets expensive. So so we ended up playing, it was Hostage, Long March. What was the condition?
Hostage, Long
March.
Minefield.
Minefield, yeah. So we ended up playing that. This was my first game ever of Hostage, so that was pretty exciting. I ended up picking my Black Suns to go in the middle. So my Black Suns and then one of your squads of B1s were in the middle with the hostages. And the way that we had set up the map, it was pretty open. And then it had like almost symmetrical line of sight blockers on the corners. Like my corner had one and then your top corner had one. But then there was one extra one on my top right. So when I was looking at the battlefield, I was like, well, I'm red, so I win by default. So what I'm going to try to do, I don't really want to fight because he's got 2 lightsaber users. If we end up messing around, he's just going to walk my hostage back to his area. So what I want to do is I just want to back up and leave. So I decided I wanted to fight on the bottom area because it was super open to try to approach that line of sight blocker, and then just try to extract my hostage and walk back to my side of the board. So that's kind of what I ended up doing. The first round, you kind of position your B1s all marched forward to try to force my bus to not advance, which worked. My bus didn't go anywhere. and then your force users went up to the top left of the map to hide behind that line of sight blocker, kind of looking at the hostages. My hostage backed up to be near my line of sight blocker. I think they barely got around the corner or almost got around the corner, something like that. And then my whole army just ran up to be behind that line of sight blocker. So we've got like your force users in the top left, my whole army in the bottom right, and our hostages like close-ish to the middle there. So we went into round 2, and round 2, did you approach at the end of round 2?
So yeah,
or did you hide for one more round?
No, I approached at the end because at this time I had to advance all my B1s to shoot at the bus, and I was hoping to get the bus by the start of the round 2 because you had to go for your pile. But then you got the bus and you scooted back, and then when you started shooting a B1 squad, you were gonna kill one because it was down to 2 left.
I was so close. Yeah.
I was like, okay, if he kills one, he just has to run away and he wins the game. I was like, so that's what I decided. I'm going to advance my 2 Sith users, because even though they're going to be out in the open in the middle of the map, they got to make a play or else I'm going to lose.
Yeah, and this was the problem with me only having 8 acts as well, is I ended up being able to save a token, but I think it ended up being the guys that were inside the bus. And so then they weren't going to do anything because I'd backed the bus up. And so then even though I was able to go between your first and second force user, it didn't matter because what went between those 2 was someone who didn't go. So you were able to go into the middle without being shot at, which is, that's just what happens when you have 8 acts. But we're going into round 3, and I see both your force users just running at my line of sight blocker. I'm like, okay, the one thing I've got going for me is I have the Darksaber, so I have cunning, so I can go first. I just want to get some stuff. I want to put some shots in these force users, see if I can kill them. Because if I can kill them and then leave, I win. Like, that's what I want to do here. And so we went into round 2, and I played one of Maul's 1-pips. I think it was the one where he gets the free aim. And then you played Maul's other 1-pip where he, So then it became, I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's kind of sketchy, because now he's got 2 force users who could both duel with Maul extremely well, because his Maul will prevent my Maul from using tokens, and his Ventress has the Makashi mastery, so she'll pierce one through Maul anyways. So I went first. My only token is on Maul, and I decided I just wanted to fish through my bag, because I want basically any token that I pull is someone who can shoot at the force users. And so I pulled, I think I got like pikes or something. So they took a shot. I think it was into Ventress, and I dealt like 1 or maybe 2 wounds.
2 wounds, yeah.
I dealt 2. Yeah, so I got 2 wounds onto her past the dodge, right? So that felt good. I was like, yeah, she's gonna die.
Who said Surge Defend is OP?
Yeah. So that was great. And then you went with her, and she jumped onto
Yes. So I went with her. I moved once, and I was in range of everything that was behind that line of sight blocker to force push. I was gonna attack Maul, but I thought that's just a waste, because sure, I could kill him, but then he just force pushed me out. Everything just converted to shoot. So I found out I was in range of the hostage unit. And so I decided to force push the hostage unit in a way that is right next to me, cohesion wise, the unit. And then I just went into it and then attacked it, which left it like 1 alive, if I'm not mistaken.
It only left 1 alive because you chose not to pierce the last guy. You would have one-shot him.
Yeah.
And then I spent a surge, which in retrospect, I shouldn't have spent the surge because I was going to die anyways. I should have just kept my surge. Not that it would do anything, but and so you ended up, you could have one-shotted them, but you didn't want Ventress to be standing there. And so you ended up not killing the last guy in that squad. But the roll was good enough where if you had taken that attack against Maul, you would have one-shot him.
Yeah.
And so originally, like when you were making your decision, because I could tell you were deciding between Maul or the hostage user, I'm like, please pick Maul, because I wanted you to dive on Maul, and then I would, exactly what you said. Maul would attack and then just back off, and then everyone else would just shoot you. And then that would also like basically guarantee that my Maul is okay, because he could just walk away and your Maul couldn't get to him. But then once I saw that roll, I was like, oh, I'm glad that you made the choice you did. Would have been really sad to have Maul get one shot. But that was rough with my, because my hostage carrier was Black Suns. And so to have one of the Black Suns almost get completely wiped without getting a shot off is rough. So that happened. And then I pulled from the bag again. I think I ended up getting the bus at this point. which was really disappointing because I wanted to get a shot off on Maul because I knew that Maul was going to go next. And so I ended up going with the bus. The bus just kind of messed around. It came up, I think it moved up just a little bit so that the guys inside could jump out to take a shot at Maul. But it's trying to hide from the rocket B1s that you have because it didn't want to just get killed for free.
Yeah.
So it moved up a little bit, but wasn't able to do anything really helpful. Then you went. Did you go with Maul at this point?
No, because the reason why I didn't go with Maul is because you had it with your Maul.
I still had Maul, yeah.
Yeah, so we're essentially playing, who goes first gets the last laugh, right? So I was like, okay, Maul still has a dodge. Even though he's out in the open, I could take at least one shot. At least I could forward one shot. So I think I decided to go with my B1s. Or no, I think I went the T-Series and just pretty much buffed up my B1s at that point.
Okay, yeah. Then I went with my guys. They jumped the guys in the bus. So the Black Sun in the bus jump out. They take a shot into Maul in the open, which is about as good as you can hope. You've got the dodge from the card. I take a shot. I think I ended up dealing like 1 wound.
1 wound, exactly enough to cause my.
Which was a bummer. That's the wrong number of wounds, but that's what happens sometimes. So I dealt 1 wound, which was fine. I was just happy that nobody got deflected on because those guys are expensive.
Oh yeah.
And then you went with Maul at that point, right?
Yeah, I went with Maul and I decided to jump into the Mandalorians with Rootcast. I attacked them. I killed everybody but Rootcast, and then I force choke somebody. I'm sure I'll probably force choke one of the Mandos. Yeah, and then both my force users went at that point. At that point, I knew I was pretty safe from dying. I was just hoping that you didn't go for Asajj with Maul because Maul needs to go 1 more turn. But yeah, you can explain what happens.
Yeah, so then at that point, basically everyone's behind my line of sight blocker. You're Maul and all of my soldiers. So then I just did the classic where everybody took aims and standbys and waited for my Maul to go last, and then I forced your Maul out and everybody took shots. My hope was that if everybody shoots Maul, because I can force him out into the open, they'll shoot him, he'll die, and then my Maul can jump on top of Ventress. Because I wanted to hit, if I could hit Ventress, then I could get guaranteed going first next turn because of Cunning, and hopefully finish her off. That was a thought. If I can kill both force users in that way, that would be phenomenal. But it did not play out that way. So I force pulled your guy out. My guys took their shots. They got like a couple more wounds on Maul, but it became clear that my Maul had to attack. And then my Maul attacked, and he only dealt 1 wound. It's like, okay, I needed 2. So we left your Maul at 1 health at the end of that turn. And that was really pretty rough because I needed to kill at least one of your force users so I could try to focus down the second one. So we went to the next round.
Well, I also want to know, like, since I couldn't shoot at anything because of the line of sight blocker, that B1 or the Black Suns that did shoot at Maul were kind of like really close and out in the open. So all my B1s just deleted that squad. That's all they focused on.
Yeah, that squad got shot. So I lost my other Black Sun squad. So it's rough because now I've had 2 Black Sun squads, and between them, they've taken 1 shot all game, and I'm down to 1 model. So that's probably the big mistake I made.
It's so interesting. When I play Black Sun, it's always the same case. They get 1 good shot, hopefully, and then the next turn they just get focus fire, which rightfully so because they hit like a truck. But yeah. I think
the trick is, and we can talk about it afterwards, but I think I need to figure out, because I don't have that problem with like fleets when I run them.
Because no one's scared of fleets. No one's scared of fleets.
It's because no one's scared of fleets. And then also usually I've put other stuff with them. So like the way I run fleets is I have fleets and then like Mando and Luke all jump on you at the same time. And so then when you're picking between those 3, the fleets get ignored. But the way that I set it up here, they just ended up getting, it was just a clear target. Yeah, there's no one else to shoot at. I guess we'll kill the Black Sun, which is rough.
Yeah. So next turn, I think I played Asajj as 1 pip. Because I wasn't.
I think you hung on to your 1 pip because you knew that I was going to play. Because you still had a 1 pip after I played both mine. Because I played my 1 pip because I needed priority.
Oh yeah, you're right. I remember that. What did you play?
So I played my 1 pip because I needed priority on that turn. Because I needed to kill at least 1 of your force users. And so I had my Maul, instead of finishing off your Maul, because he was sitting engaged with your Maul with 1 health left, I decided just to jump over and attack your Ventress. And so I jumped over, attacked Ventress, and dealt 1 wound. I was like, okay, Maul's dealt 2 wounds on 2 attacks. He's just not performing, but that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And so then you went, I think you went with your Maul at this point because he's basically free reign.
I recover. I then move into Rootcast, who's still alive, and I attack Rootcast. And guess what happens? She saves everything because
I think she rolled like 8. It was amazing.
Yeah, she has Impervious, so she's like protected all that period. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So
Impervious does matter sometimes.
I think at that point I chose to force choke. I don't know. I force choked something, but yeah.
You choked something else. Yeah, I think it was one of the guns on the pikes or something.
I think you're right.
So then I went with Rook Cast. I ended up pulling her out of the bag. She went fisticuffs with Maul and dealt in the final wound. And then I had her jump into melee with Asajj to try to prevent Asajj from just ruining my Maul. But it didn't end up mattering. As that turn played out, I think you dealt some damage to my Maul. And then so then the next round, I think you attacked him and then force pushed him out. And then the next round, I played his 3-pip to recover his health. He recovered his 2, but then
I played her 1-pip, so I got a bunch of dodges.
1-pip.
Yeah, and I did it.
And she jumped on him and just murdered him.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I just conceded because it was Asajj and a bunch of B1s. I think I had like 5 models left on the board.
Yeah. I gotta say, like that whole time that game, like it was going really south for me, and I knew I had to play something. And I think that one swing against the Black Suns with the hostage changed it for me because like I did not see a victory at this point because I was just like, well, my dudes are gonna be in the middle of the board in open space. Like, what are they gonna do? And so yeah, but that I think
and that was kind of the hope too because I had the Black Suns and I was like, okay, if she does jump on him and attack him, there will be probably a couple left, and then they'll be able to melee. They melee super well.
Yeah.
And then there was not any of them left. Oh well, that changes things.
I tried, Nick. Okay, I tried to bring the list without Maul, and you just showed me that doesn't work. So I had to bring them. But I gotta say, I do like them as a combo. They play really well together. Force pushing and double force choke that can jump. Like that was I always loved the list with Dooku and Maul. But the problem is that Dooku's slow, whereas now I got 2 force users that can jump, and yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, thank goodness Force Choke is still only 5 points. Whew, that's because so fairly priced.
Yeah, that one probably needs to get bumped.
Hold on, Nick. No. We already nerfed burst to speed. We can't be bursting up, nerfing all the good force powers. Go ahead, Nick. Say your take about it.
I guess I don't understand how that's still 5 if everything else is how with all the other changes. Why did that remain the same?
It's funny that you say that because I was talking to some people about Ahsoka and Luke list and everything, and I was just like, oh, you could do this with Luke and Ahsoka. Like what? Oh,
yeah, it's not the same. They're just not as good as 2 dark side force users.
It's not the same. They can't force choke. It's just
they need to be tainted. They need to bring that.
It's like force unconscious, and they just go out of the game. But yeah, it's really not the same. Force choke really makes all the difference when bringing force users, in my opinion. I mean, aside from force push, force push is always number 1 tier. But yeah.
It's just a good counter to a lot of things, right? To the heavies, to small units like Mandos, right? It's just so brutal.
It is.
Yep.
It's real. Yeah.
No, yeah. When I saw that you had brought 2 force users to that game, I looked at my Mandalorians and was like, this is gonna be rough. There's 2 copies of Force Choke that they're gonna try to entangle with. This is not gonna go well.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it needs to be nerfed. I guess I'm a little biased on that, but yeah, it's strong.
I think it was not terrible when you could only really take 1, right? Like I think it's fine for Vader to be able to take it for 5 points. I think like if Inquisitors can take force upgrades and if with Asajj being able to take force upgrades and Maul, I think there's enough at this point where it's like, oh, we gotta tax you if you want to take multiple copies of this thing.
Yeah.
But that's just my take.
No, I can see you guys both standpoint on it. Like I do agree. I like that it's not on Master of the Force like people because then I think it would be too OP if it was. But still, Maul and Asajj have ways to recover that just doesn't even matter. You only need choke really to matter for 1 turn anyways.
And Maul has plenty of ways to recover. It's great on Maul. And then like you said, Asajj has the 1 card, and if she's in melee, she doesn't care that much. It's better just take the recover and get the free kill. That's nice.
Well, it sounds like to me you guys' opponent was really good. Outstanding. But all right, we'll move on to our next segment, strategy discussions. Today we're going to talk about Sabine. Before we go into her stat lines and everything, give me your guys' quick take on it. What do you think, Nick?
Why is she more expensive than Imperial Boba?
Yep. That's a good take.
Only 5 points though.
5 points with no dark saber. So
Yeah.
if you put anything on her now, she's even more expensive. I just when I was going on my rants about Ahsoka and Asajj, I looked at I didn't even never even thought about that because I never even really played much Sabine. I looked at Sabine, I was like, she's more than Boba.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
terrible.
Get into our hot takes. I think she's worth the 125 in my opinion. Not counting the darksaber. Maybe the darksaber could use a nerf or a buff. I mean, like go down in cost. But like, I don't know how many times of games in the past where I try to shoot at Sabine and kill her, and she just doesn't die, and it's so frustrating.
The problem with her is her dice pools are not big. She's range 2. You can't play at range 2 in this game anymore. I just don't think.
It's hard.
Yeah, if you're not going to play her to shoot, I don't see how you can put Sabine out there and take a shot at somebody.
Yeah.
Without her game.
Cad gets away with playing at range 2, but only because he has steady. If he didn't have steady, he'd be in the same boat. And she doesn't have steady. So it's like her movement of 3 is a little bit redeeming, but she should not be 125 and not have any way to get like a free bonus action like other heroes do.
I think,
and not that she has no value, but I don't think she's there to shoot. You're doing other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we're seeing the effects of range 4 being dominant in this game, and there just so many people are taking them that just makes range 2 just not fun to play at all.
I think Sabine's actually pretty strong against range 4 because if you give her what's it called, the thing where she can dodge crits, then typically she'll be basically immune at range 4, and then she can close. The harder thing for her is the big dice pools at range 3.
And range 2, because she's got to get range 2, right? So you're playing against Black Suns. I mean, she's not going to survive that.
Couple shots,
yeah.
I know why she's 25 more, or in that case, 25 points. This keyword that I love and hate, this one right here, the one I'm looking at right here, this one, nimble. This keyword.
It's a great keyword.
It's amazing. I love this keyword. It's so good.
The problem with it is that people know it's there, and so then they're only going to shoot you if they're going to kill you. And so like you don't get shot most of the time. They just don't try to plink you. They plink your other guys, and then they murder you with a big dice pool.
Nimbles, yeah. I don't think Nimble's all that great.
Really?
No. It's on units that even with it, they still die. They, Sabine, Rebel troopers. Oh, I have 1 dodge. Great. I block 1. I still roll 6 dice and they all die. So it's like it would be a lot better if the units that had nimble actually had ways to like generate dodge tokens, but then it'd probably be too powerful. Then it'd be too good, right? So it's like it's this keyword that's caught in this trap of being too good if you actually could have tokens. So none of these units have ways to really generate tokens.
I actually really like prepared supplies on her for that reason. But then at that point, you're having such an expensive hero that she's got to do a lot to make up for the fact that you're now spending 9 points in upgrades, plus she's 125 plus 15 for her darksaber because she's not doing damage with 2 shots of 3. And so after all that, it's like, oh, is she worth it? That's tight.
I gotta say though, like surging, I always hate shooting at units that surge to defend because of that 67% chance to save, and then on top of another dodge. Like it's always just, and then if you do take a shield, that's also keeping her alive. But it's just annoying to me, if anything. Like shooting at your Mandos that game, Nick, was so like and frustrating because I took so many shots and you rolled your good saves, but in the long run, if I make you roll enough dice, you're gonna fail them.
Yeah, and I did roll pretty well that game, but if I had one bad roll, that would have been over so fast. If you just blank out on some dice and they're all just wiped out. Same with Sabine. I mean, you will have those games where you save everything, sure, but that one game it's not sustainable over many games, right? You
Right.
play one game a week, sure. You may not have a bad Sabi game for a month, but when you do, she's just gonna die real fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll go over her stats. So she's operative 1. She has 5 health, 2 courage, rolls red defense dice. Surgeon's a crit, surgeon's defend. Her speed 3. She has a training slot, 2 gear slots, and an armament slot. She's has jump 2, gunslinger, impervious, nimble. Her melee is 2 blacks. Her blaster pistol is a range 1 to 2, a red, a black, and a white, and it's pierce 1. Is her shield a gear slot?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
She also has her special little rope thing. that
Oh
she can
yeah,
take.
you're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is amazing. I think everyone should have that on her because shutting down a
Well,
Jedi.
It's not
Well,
a free action.
Yeah, you have to take an action and exhaust. So
So, yeah.
you're using it once probably.
Yeah.
Maybe
think it's
twice if you
huge.
take her 2-pip.
I still think it's huge because that's like forcing down a
It
force
is, but
user.
at this point now you've built in like so many points of contingencies that
Mhm.
like, is she valuable enough for that? Like,
Yeah.
then you
Uh,
run into the same situation as like what you're talking about with CAD, where it's like, oh yeah, he's tough to kill and he's shooting 4 black dice. So then they just won't shoot at him most games.
So do you guys think taking the dark saber makes her more of a threat and a must to take?
I think so. But
I think so
like
too.
melee.
Yeah, I think so too because I feel like you have to get her in melee. She
Mhm.
can't stay out there and depending on your table, you may not have a lot of line of sight blockers, right? So if she's just behind heavy cover, that's too many dice that she could take. So you have to get her in melee, and then she's got to be able to do something when she gets in there.
You know what I hate is that giving people keywords that are good, but are also bad, and they have to be bad because they're so good. An example is gunslinger. Everybody that I see that has gunslinger doesn't probably rolls only 3 dice, and I think they all roll 3 dice. Any more than that, it becomes too good. What do you guys think?
I think that's fine. I think so. I really like Han. I think Han's a really fun hero.
And he only
I
rolls
think
2 dice.
Yeah, but I think the real problem here with Sabine, because I don't like Sabine for shooting, is that she doesn't have sharpshooter. And without sharpshooter, those small dice pools suck. Like
Yeah.
they feel really bad. So like Han, at least you're getting something through. Like you're almost for sure dropping a model every single shot. Whereas Sabine, not as much. Sometimes you blank them out and it just feels stupid. What am I even doing?
I agree with you guys. I think you have to take it with the dark saber. It kind of sucks because she reminds me of Grievous. Like you want to get in there, but if your opponent has a force user, it's just like, yeah, force push. And there goes that. What do you guys think are her strength?
She's very survivable. With nimble, that's great. Once she gets a dodge, she has great slots. I feel like there's a lot of ways that you can build her that she is more survivable. Like we've talked about a bunch of them.
Her speed 3 and jump 2. I mean, obviously you can't
Always,
get better
yeah.
than that. And maybe when tables start to adjust to the new rules, and you actually have a lot more height 2 terrain that some units just can't get on, and it's a place where she can still go. That could be an advantage possibly in some games.
Yeah,
That could be an interesting vantage point to shoot from too. Like maybe that'll make her more viable as a gunslinger if it's like, oh well, you literally can't approach me. I'm up here. I have heavy cover and I'm gonna shoot at you. But that you can't guarantee that.
Do you think big dice pools are ruining the game?
Well, not ruining the game, but it's definitely changed it. And it's because no matter how much I complain, I do like this game and I like to play it. But it's definitely, morphed like every game as things come out. And there are a lot of large dice pools that a lot of these earlier characters or units just can't really deal with, and you have to bring something else. And again, like you can play Sabine and she do fine, and you could win games with Sabine. I just don't think she's like what you would bring if you're like saying, I want to win this game.
Yeah.
I feel like give her 5 on her gunslinger. Like I feel like since there's bigger and bigger dice pools coming out, I think the small dice pool should not be at least 5 for heroes, in my opinion.
5 is a lot.
But look at
Big
Boba.
dice pool.
Boba just got added 1 extra die. Look how amazing he is.
Yeah, but he only shoots once. Gunslinger, that means you're throwing 10 dice a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
You
not
just
every
want to roll a lot of dice.
I mean, look at
not
the
every unit. Not every unit is Ventress. We can't all be Ventress and throw lots of dice.
My bias is coming from Dark Troopers. They're rolling at least 9 dice a turn, and then more some the closer they get. Like, oh man.
I think the hard thing is that like big dice pools are a reaction to dodge spam, right? Because that's how you break through dodge spam. But then that makes like Sabine, yeah, she can't deal with dodge spam because she doesn't have big enough dice pool, and she can't deal with big dice pools because her strength was dodge spam. So it's just in a rough spot.
I think instead of raising number of dice, let her shoot range 3.
That would be interesting. I still think I wouldn't like shooting with her very much though.
You wouldn't like it, but at least you can take a better shot and not have to be in the middle of their army, right? To take shots, because at least you could be you have a little more safety there. Because then I feel like if you're at range 3 and actually could shoot when you wanted to, the return shots you have a better chance of saving. She has a good save. You could probably survive that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think her command cards need to be redone. That's probably you could probably say that about any character that came out early in the game. Other than the fact that her 2-pip allows her to recover, it's garbage. So
it's true. Yeah, there's no two ways about that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Especially, I don't know, Explosions just seems kind of so good.
Explosions is fine. It's not like amazing, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And her 3-pip is not terrible, but yeah, her 2-pip definitely could use some
Like
improvement.
Sabine is everything I want, except just give me force powers. Then it would be like the best unit in the whole game.
I feel like with Sabine, she just needs to be cheaper. Like if she was 125 after her upgrades, I think that'd be fine. But like she ends up like 160. Like, oh gosh. That's just too much. It's just too much of your army to be not very effective.
Yeah. So I see here, Daniel, that you made a list using her. You want to tell us what the list is?
Yeah, so it wasn't using her specifically because I don't think she's very good. I like her a lot, and I actually do play her a reasonable amount. But but the list was specifically for Ahsoka because I want to see if I can make an Ahsoka list. And I feel like the only viable way really to run Ahsoka right now is with Sabine. So the list is Ahsoka with Force Reflexes and Force Push into the fray and Tenacity, and then Sabine with the Darksaber, and then Clan Ren just naked, Wookiee Warriors with the Battle Shield, Commando Strike Team, just the snipers, and then 3 naked Rebel Troopers, and an AA-5 speeder truck with Shriv and the Backworld Medic. So this puts it at 9 activations, and the idea is generally that you have the bus, you have Ahsoka, Sabine, Clan Ren, and the Wookiees. So you've got 5 acts that more or less want to just be in your face. And then you've got the commandos if you have to like hold a point in the back, and the 3 Rebel Troopers just to be your, button pushers.
Yeah. Who do you put in the bus?
Probably the Wookiee Warriors.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so you bust in the Wookiee Warriors, and then you have Sabine and Ahsoka run outside with Clan Ren.
You don't like not into the fray. Season Initiative on Ahsoka?
So with the command cards, because you end up taking Sabine's and Ahsoka's command cards, the only command card that she's not going to have an order on is Explosions. Other than that, she gets an order every time.
Oh,
so
really?
I don't feel like you need it. Yeah. Because she has 2 2-pips, and then she has a 1-pip, and then she has her 3-pip, and the other 3-pip is Legacy of Mandalore, where Sabine gives out 3 orders. And she wants to give them to operatives or special forces, and so you just give it to Ahsoka.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
So almost every turn, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Clan Ren have an order. Wookiees are kind of on their own. They'll have to figure it out.
I got the Wookiees, man. They're still so good. Like I see this threat of like everything coming at me, and I'm just like, who do I focus first, man?
That's the idea behind the list, is that, because then Sabine will hopefully be able to do some damage. This is like the trimmest version of Sabine I think is appropriate to run, just Sabine and the Darksaber. I'd love to put more stuff on her, but I just ran out of points. I'm at 800 exactly.
What about maybe not using the Clan Ren and getting maybe some more out of it? Because I know why people bring Clan Ren Sabine, but I don't feel like that makes them good.
Yeah. So the other thought would be if I don't take Clan Ren, I'd probably throw in another squad of Wookiees and then use upgrades. And I could do that. I feel like Clan Ren could work well in this list just because you have so many threats being thrown at you that probably they're not what's being focused. And so then they can use their big dice pool. But I always think that, and then my Mandalorians die. So I would have to try it to see.
Yeah, I like it because it's like, oh, okay, the weakness is the Rebel Trooper as well. By the time I'm focusing on the Rebel Troopers, everything's in my face. My B1s are dying. I don't think it doesn't matter how many Force users I have. Because I think Ahsoka and Sabine could deal with Maul and Saj just fine.
I don't know, because Asajj would be able to cut through either
You
one of
ju-
them pretty well.
You just said a lot of nonsense in that sentence right there.
I feel like the biggest weakness of this list is that Ahsoka is just not that big of a hammer. And so then like the build that she has, I've got her at 190 points. That's just kind of a lot. And she's still throwing a double rainbow, which is, I've seen Obi-Wan fight. It's not amazing. Like, it's not terrible, but to be like, this is my focal piece.
Hey, I'm gonna prove you wrong this Sunday, okay? Obi-Wan's taking
All right.
home.
We'll just have a one-on-one, just my Luke against your Obi-Wan. Whoever wins that wins the game. And we'll just call it.
It'd be
Just
like,
both honorably walk to the center.
we'll handle this the old ways, just one-on-one. Okay.
Yeah, I think the problem with Ahsoka is they didn't pick a lane for her. They tried to do two different things with her.
Yeah.
Either she should have been more of a fighter aggressive or more like a defensive piece.
The one thing I do really like is that between Clan Ren, Sabine, and Ahsoka, you have a lot of dodges on all of them, basically all the time, because Ahsoka is giving out the free dodges, and then Legacy of Mandalore gives out the free dodges, and then there's her other card where she gives free dodges when people get attacked. And so then between all that, Sabine will have a dodge the first time she's attacked every turn, except the turn she does explosions, which is good, because then she can nimble it and have it forever. Same thing with Clan Ren, they would always have a dodge, and then Ahsoka generates her own dodges pretty well. So that's kind of your one advantage in melee, is that you're probably blocking some stuff, but
yeah. And they all got to be really close for that. I mean, it's all range 1.
Yep.
I think
Yeah, no, this
1 to 2, right?
it wants to ball up and then just jump into the middle. Ideally, you probably want to play like breakthrough with this, and you just want to jump on your opponent right at the beginning, and then they have to decide, like, do I fight this out or do I try to go score points? And that puts them in a rough spot.
Bombing run would be good for this too. Clan Ren and Sabine. And
yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, the problem with the AA5 is, and this is the thing where I might actually trim back, is because Backworld Medic is such a good thing, but the bus is usually in front, so it usually dies before it can use it. And then if you trim that off, you have some room for upgrades. So that would probably be the change that I'd make.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I don't know though. The idea of healing, you have so many great heal targets that it's.
Yeah, but you're right. You're never gonna be able to use it. It's gonna your bus will die turn 1, turn 2. Like, it's almost guaranteed. It's such an easy thing to shoot. It's white save.
It can't hide.
It can't hide.
Especially in
and then there's so much impact roaming around.
Yeah.
B1s with rocket launchers all of a sudden.
Especially
have to deal with those.
It's this impact meta, man. The Dark Troopers just changed the whole thing. So what do you guys think could change for Rebels? Like, what change do you think you need to make Rebels great again?
Oh, Ewoks, right? which I don't think is going to be their savior. I don't know. It's and then it kind of goes back to what we said about the big dice pools. You know, they're a white save army that has a really hard time now living with that, because they just don't survive.
Ironically, the CIS has also suffered because of the big dice pools, because now you could just one-shot B1s like nothing.
Yeah. But the Rebels even more so, because they have Rebels usually will have less wounds on the table, less activations than the CIS too as well.
They're counting on getting the cheese extra dodges, cheese extra cover, but that doesn't happen if you don't get shot more than once.
Yeah, because like if we look at Rebels, like the only hero hammer that is worthy to take that will do damage is OP Luke.
Yep.
Aside from that, like everyone struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't always like to say it's points, but I feel like there are a lot of pieces that they have that would be better with some points adjustments, because they took a real big hit in the last points adjustment. All those generic upgrades for all the things that Rebels used, you know, it's so funny because they all those points went up and all the other armies were like, oh, I guess I lost my 30-point bid, and the rebels were like, oh, I guess I lost all my upgrades.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they need to get the Empire treatment that the Empire got last year. If they get that treatment, I think they'll do just fine.
And
But
and
yeah.
I'd
they
like to see like Rebel Troopers heavy guns get reduced like quite a bit. Like not quite to B1 levels, but closer. Because I'd like to put heavy guns on Rebels. I think that'd be reasonable.
yeah.
But
And if the fun thing to do, because the rebels are so hero focused, and so many of their heroes have been out so long, going back to we mentioned the command cards, I think a lot of the rebel heroes could use a complete rework on their command cards. Han, Chewie. I mean, Chewie's command cards are
so bad.
utterly
He has the one good one for
worthless.
Han, and that is literally it.
Yeah, they're utterly worthless. I mean, if you redid Han, Chewie, Leia, a lot of these old characters, gave him some more options with command cards. Without, if you're not going to adjust points, you're not going to change anything else. At least give something to be a little sneakier or be a little out of the box, right? Not so kind of straightforward. Oh, I'm trying still to kill you. Make it more about being a rep, how rebels want to play.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, guys.
Yeah,
Well,
it feels like with Rebels, they have just a lot of scalpels and no hammers. And that's why Op Luke makes into so many lists, because he's your only real hammer. Yeah.
I mean, what about the T-47? They're still good.
They suffer from the impact thing.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
they will do some damage, but they probably will go down.
Yeah, it's funny because like I think the Empire changes kind of like made white saves unplayable in a way, or just like not do so well. And I feel like that's what the point of the white saves army were for, is to do really good at point cost. But Empire getting that point cost now just like why play white saves anymore? But I'll still play them because they're still good and they're still fun. And yeah, but all right, guys, we'll move on to rules questions. Got a couple for you guys. Okay, so here's one that I've always wondered about. Overrun on swoop bikes. The rule says you can use overrun X to up to an X per activation. However, the overrun keyword is the weapon specific block. Does that mean I get one overrun attack per model, just not combined on the same unit? As either of these sequence legal? One, compulsory move, displace a unit, use one model's axe as an overrun, move again, pass over the same unit or different unit, but not displace the unit, using models to Verbal's axe as an overrun. What do you guys think?
I think that's fine. Yeah, because it is the thing where you get the 2 different overrun attacks. That's how overrun 2 works, I think.
Yeah.
But you only get one of the weapon profile, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't stack, even though it's overrun.
It's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Overrun, I feel like, is something they made and then forgot about.
Yeah.
Well, okay. The reason why I brought this up is because I was confused. I was playing against an opponent and I brought 3 swoop bikes and I was just like, oh yeah, overrun 2, that's gonna be amazing. And then he read me what overrun does, and it specifically says, unless they changed it, you have to land on the target. Well, swoop bikes are compulsory vehicles. They can't land on a target unless it's on the compulsory move.
I think it
So-
also says pass over.
Yeah.
Because I know for sure originally, unless they changed it, it said pass over or land on.
Okay, because maybe I misread it.
Let's pull it up.
Yeah, double check. Because when that game, I was just like, I thought you could just pass, because that's what I thought. I was like, am I cheating right now? And then
I know it was
this.
designed so you could pass over, and maybe they just messed up with their verbiage.
There's might be a verbiage because they did correct some verbiage in the past, and it's just like, yeah, they just need to mess it up. But while you're looking that up, Daniel, the sequence that I read you is accurate. You can pass through a unit, and you do an overrun attack. So that was just more for my clarification, because I thought that I was doing that wrong. And when me and my opponent were discussing it, I was just like, well, why would you bring swoop bikes in if they can only do overrun once? I was like, that's kind of a waste of a keyword, in my opinion. But reading this kind of like, oh, I can. I just got to pass over it. But does it say anything, David?
It says a unit with an overrun weapon can perform an overrun attack after it performs a standard move in which one of its miniature's bases overlaps an enemy miniature's base.
Mhm.
After completing the move and resolving any displacement, the unit with the overrun may perform the attack. Yeah.
Yeah. See, so that's what my opponent read to me as well. It's just like, well, you can't overlap a base unless it's a compulsory move.
Well, you can overlap, you just don't land on them. So you overlap during the move.
Okay. I read it the opposite way. Like I had to physically overlap it.
At the end of the move?
Yeah, at the end of the move. That's why I was interpreting when I was reading that. I was like, well, that's kind of sucks. Okay, next question. If Boyle uses Guardian keyword on a unit, can he use a friendly Clone Trooper's surge token during the convert any surge and block phase? Same question for Anakin surges, but with Exemplar. So in this scenario, I'm shooting at a unit, Boyle decides the Guardian, can he then take a clone's surge token for the Guardian attack? And then vice versa, but uses Anakin's Exemplar.
I think he should be able to. I don't know what the rule specifically is on clone troopers, though. I don't know if you have to be the target of the attack. So
Yeah, I
don't know.
wonder if there's a timing there when you can get a token versus when you do the Guardian.
So what do you guys think?
I'll guess that you can, because I think that's how it should be.
What about you, Nick?
Well, I'm gonna say no because I don't play Gar.
Okay, so Nick is right. Since Boyle's not a defender of the attack, he cannot share a token for the Guardian.
Yeah.
However, Anakin's Exemplar, he is allowed to, because the Exemplar, there's no limit.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I guess that makes sense, because if you could do it, then you could theoretically use a surge on the original unit and use a surge on Boyle.
Mhm.
And that would break the little one.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess it makes sense.
I mean,
Still not thrilled.
Yeah, I agree with you, Daniel. I think you should be able to, because like clones are already suffering.
You're
with this
still a
shared
clone
token.
trooper.
Yeah, like why?
You don't stop being a clone trooper when you jump in front of the other clone trooper.
Right? Oh man. But it is what it is. Next question. Can repair be used to remove an ion token from Dark Troopers? You're not healing the Dark Trooper, but you're removing the ion token.
I'm gonna guess no.
No, yes, you can. I thought. Well, I could be wrong, but I thought repair could do either.
Repair can't do either, but Dark Troopers aren't allowed to repair.
So
That's right.
So I'm gonna say no, because I think that they can't do that because that's part of a repair action. But
the answer
it's
is
possible that they say specifically heal.
the unconcerned keyword states Imperial Dark Troopers may not be repaired or restored. This means that they may not be targeted by the repair X keyword. So, yep, no taking ions, even though people don't take ions.
They lose
anyways.
1/4 of their actions from that turn.
Not a big deal, right? And the last question I got for you guys is, can the Hunter upgrade trigger on multiple attacks as a result of using a Beam X weapon? An example, if a clone commander with the Hunter upgrade uses their 2 pips air support and targets a wounded Cassian Andor, a wounded K2SU, and a wounded Jin, does the clone commander get an aim from the Hunter upgrade when he beams attack each unit?
I think so.
Yes, I would say yes.
You both are right. You could get 3 aims right off that attack because they're technically wounded. So
yeah, because it's because of this. It's because of the specific step that you get the aim at.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I don't know when you're the Hunter off your clone commander, but if you want to do it for that, why not? All right, boys.
It's very situational.
Yeah, very, very. It's one of those games where you're just having fun and just like, just why not? But all right, thank you guys for joining me. Nick, thank you for coming on. Very honored for you to be here. And everybody that's watching, hope you guys had a good time and enjoy the rest of your week. See ya.